Hello, good people of YouTube. Mountbatten here, and today we're talking about one of my favorite cruisers in the game, the Hindenburg. So the Hindenburg is the Techline Tier 10 German heavy cruiser, and she is a cruiser that, as you can tell by the title of this video, in my opinion, she just keeps refusing to go out of the meta. And cruisers, they're a bit easier to stay in the meta, quote unquote, because many of them for the most part, have very rapid firing guns that they normally have HE or in the Italian cruiser's case SAP, which will do damage over time no matter what. But some cruisers are more prone to be less favorable and more favorable over time because of things like their armor, their range, certain attributes about them. But with the Hindenburg, she's always been a strong contender to do well in whatever version of Warships we are playing. She was a very strong cruiser when I first started playing way back in the day. She's still a very, very, very strong cruiser today. Probably in her strongest form today, I would imagine, at the current moment. And we're going to take a look at her stats and all today. I'm going to go over how I play the ship and how she does in the current version of Warships, which I've already said is quite good. So let's go ahead and dive right on into her. So, starting off, let's start with her armor. Probably one of the best things about her. She's a very well-armored heavy cruiser. Not quite to the levels of course, ships like the Stalingrad and the Petropavlovsk, but for what it is and for how old the ship is, she's a very well-armored ship. She has a 27mm nose plate, which she does have an icebreaker bow, kind of, sort of. You do have a icebreaker that wraps around that is 27mm, and she does have a cheek plate that is 40mm. I don't know why they felt the need to divide this one section of the front into a separate 27mm slat, but you know, whatever. Her upper belt is 30mm, so that can be overmatched by Republic and up, which that is one of the ship's undoings in the current meta. With all these large caliber battleships being added at higher tier, that does of course bring her overall tankiness down, but you gotta think too, you're not necessarily at this point going to always in every single match have a 431mm battleship or above in the game. It's not guaranteed to happen. It probably happens most of the time, but 100% of the time I wouldn't say so, and even then with the ship's other stats, that does of course help in staying alive, like her maneuverability and speed, which we'll get to in a moment. But just know that yes, your upper belt can be overmatched by 431mm or above, so like Republic and up in terms of gun caliber. Her main belt is 110mm. Her stern is 27mm, and she does have a 90mm plate at the end. Stern deck is 27, main deck is 30, and bow deck is 27 as well. Now, her citadel, it is turtleback in true German fashion. Now, it's not turtleback like, of course, Gross or Kurfürst or anything in terms of the thickness. It is, again, only 110mm thick. But against most other cruisers, you are pretty well protected from citadels. But of course, you run across super cruiser, or something like that, you're going to run into some problems. But if you angle and such, you'll be surprised how well this ship can tank with that 110mm main belt. Now, should you be sitting still and tanking in the Hindenburg? No, absolutely not. That's not how she's played, but if you're dancing around and, of course, throwing your rudder around, trying to angle in toward the shots, you can bounce them pretty consistently. In terms of her hit points, she has 51,900 hit points and 13% torpedo damage reduction. Now, her guns, the main feature here on this ship. She has 12 230mm guns. They reload, again, with the build that I have on the ship, which should have popped up at the beginning. And again, I'll throw it up here again for you guys to take a peek at. She has an 8.6 second base reload time right now, maximum dispersion of 145 meters, and a maximum range of 17.8 kilometers. Now, one good thing about the Hindenburg is that there's many variations of Hindenburg you can run, and they're all fantastic. I have a much closer in build on my Hindenburg. You can get Hindenburg out to over 20 kilometers because she can take the spotter plane if you so wish to do so, and of course you could slap a range mod on there too, so you can have a 20 kilometer Hindenburg if you want, which is effective. surprisingly so. Most cruisers, once you get up to that range, especially cruisers like the Hindenburg that have very rapid-firing guns, the shell flight time takes forever to get there, but the guns on the Hindenburg actually have pretty decent velocity, so it takes a second to get there, don't get me wrong. It's not like, instantaneous, but it's quick enough to where you can make it work. Alright, so her HE, now this is German HE, so you get that German HE pins. If you don't know, the German HE has a special pin value. It's 1/4 the diameter of the shell, rather than what is it normally 1/16, something like that. But just know that you can pin a lot more without having to take IFHE. So these 230mm guns, they can pin 51mm of armor, no IFHE needed. So that's a lot of ships at tier 10. That's a lot that you can pin with these guns without having to take IFHE. And she has a 14% chance of causing a fire too. Now, the perks of not having to take IFHE, especially after the IFHE rework, is that you don't have to trade getting good penetration values and good fire chance. You have both here with the Hindenburg. Now, if you want to take IFHE and for some reason you just really want to pin Kremlin's deck if you take IFHE, sure, you can do that if you want, but it's a little overkill, and you are trading off that 14% chance of start causing a fire on 12 203mm guns if you really want to pin that much. You don't need to, in my opinion. It's completely unnecessary, but if you want to, you can do it. And the HE shells have a maximum damage of 2,500. Now, the AP on the Hindenburg is no slouch either. It does do a maximum value of 5,900 maximum damage. Wow, my words just stopped working there for a moment. But with the AP on the Hindenburg, I wouldn't really use it unless you have flat broadside to shoot at from close range, specifically against battleships. In most cases, just throwing HE at the wall will work because of the pin values of the HE and the fire chance. But if you want to, when you get in a close range situation against maybe a battleship or something that you're ambushing around the corner of an island, or they just popped up next to you, you can load the HE, aim for the upper belt, and just chunk the living crap out of them. It's very, very, very good for that. And when you have to go up against other cruisers too. Alright, now that's not the end of it. Her secondaries, funnily enough, back in the day, Hindenburg, you could actually secondary build Hindenburg and be quite effective with it. But in this case, they're mostly just dual purpose AA, but she does have 16 of the 105mm German secondaries, if you just want to know that. But that's mostly for AA nowadays. Torpedoes, she has 16 torpedoes, 4x4. You get 2 sets aside. They reload in 90 seconds, which is quite quick. They have a range of 6 kilometers, 13,700 maximum damage, standard German surface ship secondaries, pretty much. 64 knot top speed, and they are detected from 1.3 kilometers away. Torpedoes, always a great thing to have on a cruiser or a battleship or any ship, really, because they are your ace up your sleeve in a close range situation. And Hindenburg is, of course, no exemption to that rule. She does, again, get quite a few of them. You get 2 of these per side, so you can spew out 8 torps on one side of your ship if you really need to. And with just the volume of torps you're throwing out there, you're probably going to hit whatever it is you're shooting at, unless it's, of course, a destroyer or something with a cracked out rudder. But it's always nice to have that surprise up your sleeve. She does get depth charges instead of the airstrike, so that is something worth note. In some cases, the airstrike's better when dealing with submarines than depth charges, but with the depth charges, you do have the ability to throw a lot more on top of a submarine when they pop up. But you do have to sail over them, which, depending upon how far away they are, that might not be an option. But with the state of submarines right now, they're on the weaker side right now. I mean, shoot, I've gone from seeing like 3 or 4 submarines a game to maybe 2 now. But again, submarines are still in testing, so that may change. AA actually has pretty darn good AA. 84 AA rating right now with the build that I have on it, which is nothing into AA. Back in the day, Hindenburg was like the AA ship. Now, this is quite a few years ago before the CV rework, but AA build Hindenburg was, you didn't go near it. You didn't touch it because you couldn't touch it. But in today's World Warships, it's still pretty decent. Is it as good as it was? No, unfortunately not. But you have an AA range of 5.2 kilometers, which is pretty decent by today's standards. And most CVs, when they do strike you, if you're by yourself, you'll see that in the in the game you're watching right now. Eventually, I am by myself. My AA has taken quite a few hits from HE, so it's not fully intact, but I still do manage to take a plane or two away from the CV when it strikes me. Maneuverability, again, this is something you could really build into in the Hindenburg. Top speed right now is 33.1 knots with the speed flag. You have a rudder shift time of 9.7 seconds, and that is with just the first steering gears mod 1 equipped. If you really want to go for it, you can take steering gears mod 2 and get an even faster rudder shift time on the Hindenburg, which is something you can absolutely do. Back when the Commander rework came out and we had anti-concealment Hindenburg, you took steering gears mod 1, steering gears mod 2, heavy HE, heavy AP, got your detection range out to your main battery firing range, and you were literally a cracked out squirrel with guns. And boy, that was a time. And you can still do that. You can still absolutely do that. It's just not as good as it was, but it's still pretty funny to do every now and then. Concealment's down to 12.6, which is decent for cruisers. It's on the larger side for cruisers, but this is a heavy cruiser. And not like you don't want to be detected when firing in your Hindenburg anyway, especially with some of the commander buffs we have now. But it is a fairly decent stealthy ship. You can disengage when you want to, unless you're really in it. All right. Of course, too, goes without saying, if you have Lucians, absolutely slap him on your Hindenburg. He does get the main battery reload booster once you get 140 main battery hits, which is no problem with the Hindenburg at all. And then you get an additional boost to your DPM, which is pretty freaking nutty. And I do take the top grade gunner, which is when you have a ship inside your detection range, you get an 8% boost to your reload time. So you run that 8% boost on top of the 7.5% boost from your main battery loader talent. When you pop that, when you get 140 main battery hits, and then you throw Adrenaline Rush on top of that, and now you've got like a freaking 6 or 5 second reload on 12 203mm guns with German HE pins and that nice 14% fire chance, and you can see how the damage starts to stack up in the Hindenburg. So all this makes this ship, first off, this is one of the few ships that you can still highly build into, and I think that's what really helps the Hindenburg maintain its very prominent state no matter what the meta is. Like I said, you can build range Hindenburg, you can build close-in brawling Hindenburg, you can build cracked out anti-concealment lighthouse build Hindenburg if you want to. And there's still various iterations in between. You can go AA Hindenburg, and it's good at all of it. You know, like you can do a 20-kilometer Hindenburg and rain your HE down on your enemies from 20 kilometers away. It's good at that because of the 925 meters a second shell velocity from the main battery guns. You can do close-in brawling Hindenburg because of the armor scheme. And again, even with not building into range, but you still have all the boosts you can get from the commander skills and Lucians if you have Lucians to the main battery reload time, and just have this cracked out 12 203 millimeter gun cruiser at coming at you from frickin' 12 kilometers, in addition to the torpedoes that it has. She's just such a good cruiser. And she's still tanky on top of that, too. It's one of the tankier tier 10s that isn't a super cruiser, although you could probably argue that it's almost a super cruiser. But, of course, get into the main battery caliber argument there and all of that stuff. So the way I play Hindenburg is I like to play her from mid-range with, of course, the option to go into close range, because the ship is very good at... Oh, I forgot to mention its consumables, too. There's even more. You, of course, get repair damage control party. You can choose between hydroacoustic search or DFAA if you really hate planes. Like I said earlier, fighter or spotter. And, of course, she gets a heal, 5 charges of a heal with superintendent. It repairs 311 HP per second. It's active for 28 seconds. Reloads in 76 seconds. You get 5 of those. Forgot to mention she has hydroacoustic search too, so she's great for helping screen your team when pushing into a cap. Also really good for dealing with DDs when they pop up, thanks to the 12 230mm guns and the hydro, and of course if you spot a DD in your detection range, you get a boost to your reload time. It helps you melt them down even faster. So she's just a great all-around ship. Again, I like to play her at mid-range and using her to push into the cap when I need to. Great kiter too. You'll see Hindenburg in competitive and clan battles and COTS often put on the either the holding or the off flank, because she's just so good at harassing ships that are trying to push into a cap and just absolutely melting them down. Plus, if you do get the legendary module for the Hindenburg, which is pretty freaking goofy, it reduces your fire extinguishing time and your flooding recovery time by 40 seconds for 40% for your fire extinguishing time and 70% for your flooding recovery time, and then it gives you a 20% boost to your rudder shift time and a 50% boost to your main battery repair time. So you basically have a zombie Hindenburg that they can put you on fire, but then your fire lasts, like, if you build into it with the other modules, I think something like freaking 10 seconds, 5 seconds, something like that, which is great for staying alive. But yeah, the ship's just great. She's, again, one of the few cruisers that, and ships in the game in general, that there's more than just one or two viable builds for. And she's just a great ship. I love her. She's a fantastic ship for any of you first-time cruiser players, because she's just so versatile in what she can do, and I would recommend you grind up to her. Now, the German cruiser line, you got a couple of I don't want to say duds, a couple of challenging ships, let's say, to get through. The Hipper right now is definitely not in a good place, and the Rune is decent but can be frustrating to use at times, but the Hindenburg's absolutely worth the grind. Great ship, can fit many a playstyle, and I would recommend you guys check her out. Anyway, guys, let me know what you guys think about the Hindenburg in the comments down below. Hope you guys enjoyed today's video. We have given away our first of our Tier 8 premium ships. I'm sorry it took this long to get this information out to you guys. You know, busy week with Thanksgiving and all. So we have 2 more ships to give away. I'll be picking another one today, then another one tomorrow, and that will be it for the giveaways for the 30 subscriber special. So if you haven't already, make sure you go to the top 5 cool ships video and enter in it there, so you can get put into the giveaway. Hope you guys enjoyed today's video. Hope you're all having a wonderful Saturday, and hope to catch you guys in the next one.